So tell us about May O'Donnell's training.
The training?
Yes, where did she come from? Where did May
She
O'Donnell
came
come
from the Martha Graham Company, the early company in the 30s. She played major roles opposite Martha. In other words, in Appalachian Springs, one of Martha's major pieces, Martha played the bride, she played the pioneer woman. They were the two central characters. And then there was the groom and the preacher. The groom was Eric Hawkins, the preacher was Merce Cunningham.
Yeah.
So then she did a piece to a Hindemith score, written for it, I believe, of Martha's. It was called Herodias. And it was Martha and May together for like a half hour. I recently saw, not recently, within the last 8 years, the Graham Company put together, revived it. And I happened to be in New York at the time and I saw it. It was magnificent. And I could just imagine May and Martha doing it, because they were very powerful performers, but very complementary performers. You know, what Martha liked about May was you couldn't compare them. They worked like so sympathetically, and so the energy was so right, and the presence, their personal presence, was so balanced.
Yes.
I would say balanced.
Yes.
And Martha had the good judgment to see that.
Yes. Did you ever take classes from Martha?
Oh yes. Oh yes. In fact, on my third class, she asked me to come into the company. And the first class I took with her, she sidled up to me and she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Here," meaning New York. And she said, "No, I mean, where are you from? Where did you get your training?" And I said, "May O'Donnell." She said, "Oh," because she had so much respect for May and what May was doing. And May was still guest artisting with her. She coming to appear with her as a guest artist. And a few classes later, she asked me into the company, and I had to refuse. I say, "I'm in May's company, so I can't be in two companies at once." And she understood that I had a loyalty, I had a commitment, and if that changed, she said, "If that changed, I'd love to have you in the company." Yeah.
What were Martha Graham's classes like compared to May's?
A very different atmosphere. May's school was very much like my own present school, which was, it was very uncompetitive, very supportive. The advanced dancers always helped the less advanced dancers, and they were, it was like a family. It was very familial, and May was so supportive, never negative. And Martha's school, everybody looked like they were on edge. And I think Martha's work, the tone of her choreography was tension, and drama. So if you're doing dramatic things, you want to see this level of projection of emotion. Where May's work was much more lyrical and much more abstract. So it didn't require that. But the atmosphere in Martha's school was very different from May's school.
Yes.
And I'm not saying one was better than the other, it was just extremely different.
Yes.
It would be like going to a foreign country.
Yes.
Coming from America and going to, the Middle East or something,
Yes. Yes.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the people in the Graham School were seemed to be very tense and on edge. And I think Martha kind of liked to see that for some reason. They said that, I heard from people who ended up working for her, that she loved to see that tension in people because it drew out their passions.
Yes.
So you get what you're going after in the way that you need to.
That's very interesting.
Isn't
very
that interesting? And she's a great artist. I had so much respect for her. I would love to have been in some of her choreography, but and even though she asked me, I couldn't leave one for another.
Yes.
Because I felt the loyalty I had for the woman who trained me mostly.
Yes.
You know.
And she was very loyal to you too. No, when you
all
came
through
back.
our life, I was connected to her till she was May O'Donnell, till she was almost 98 years old when she passed away.
Yes.
And I was, you know, her executor. Started her foundation in New York City. The O'Donnell Green Foundation, Music and Dance. Her husband was Ray Green.
Yes.
And he composed for Martha, the American Document, one of her big major pieces. American Document, he did the original score for that. And he did many of May O'Donnell's compositions, musical scores. And they were married, and very happily married, very wonderfully suited, balanced couple. Him with music, and her with, you know, teaching and choreographing and performing. She was a brilliant performer. And I did perform with her when she was still performing. Then I came back to become her assistant and rehearsal director. Years after she stopped performing, and she was getting older, but she had a marvelous company. And that was in the late 70s, early 80s. And she called me up and said, Frank, I really would love you to come back to New York and help me out with this, because I have a group of dancers who are begging me to perform, to do both the older pieces and some new work. And she said, if you were there to help me, I'd be... She put a lot of trust in me for being much younger. She came out to teach a few master classes at our school. She saw what Victor and I were doing at Shawl Anderson, but she also taught big workshops at the Berkeley, California University, and toured the whole state. And I joined that tour. Both Victor and I joined that tour, even though we had to learn some new pieces because they were developed after we left, and she had some pieces that we were familiar with.
Yeah.
So that was a treat.
So let's talk about the start of Shawl Anderson. And so you met Victor at May O'Donnell Studio.
At May O'Donnell Studio, yeah. I had been on tour for about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half maybe, because then I had a opportunity to dance in Los Angeles on the Red Skelton show. And when I just finally said, I so miss New York City, I so miss my teacher, I so miss taking class every day. I finally just, after a year and a few months, I just handed in my notice. I said, I really need to go back to New York and reconnect. And I did just that. And fortunately, I got working about 4 months later in New York. I got, you know, working in a show right away. But May has been connected in my life since I was 17. And I'm still the chairman I was the chairman for many years. I just turned over that chairmanship. I'm a board member of her foundation.
So you were back in New York,
Yeah.
dancing for about 3 years, and then you and Victor decided to come out here, to leave New York and to bring modern dance to the Bay Area.
But I was in New York totally, maybe
Yeah.
close to 11 years,
Yes.
because there was that going on tour.
Yes.
And because I started with May at around 1950 in her school, when I was at the Roxy, you know.
So, yeah.
And I did meet Victor on my return to New York. He happened to be in the company then, and I walked into class and she said, "Oh, Frank, I'm so glad you're here. I really need you for this concert." And I said, "When is the concert?" She said, "I think it was in like 6 weeks." I said, "Oh, May, I haven't done your work in, you know, in a year and a half. I don't know whether I can do your work in 6 weeks." She said, "You can. I know you can." She had such faith in me. And boy, did I have to buckle down and learn such big 40-minute pieces. 40-minute pieces with very complicated scores. I would come in the wings and say, "What's next?" I didn't even know the music. It was so foreign to me, the style. One was a big Bartok piece, and another one was all percussion piece by her husband. And you know, you know, and I was just 6 weeks. They had been rehearsing for 6, 7 months. I had 6 weeks to learn it all. So I did. You know, you just meet the challenges, and she had faith in me, and I wouldn't think of not. You know, if she needed me, I was there for her.
Yeah. It sounds very exciting. It sounds like her dance was really evolving.
Her dance was so demanding, high energy, very, very demanding. You had to be top form. I think some of the New York critics said the May O'Donnell's dance company are some of the finest technical dancers they had seen. I remember Kisseldorf from the New York Times. She said, "These dancers are stunning." And there was no one who outshone the other. They were all on the same level. Do you know that women jumped as high as men? And men's legs went up as high as women's? It was the technique. It was so strong. And it opened up whatever was deficient in your technique. It balanced everything, you know.